Providence of Brabant by the Scheldt River. Captains relied on floating down this river every day. There was never a lot to do in town, so all the other children and I always sat on the edge of the river to watch the boats pass by with all of their riches on board. Our second favorite place to go was the market that thrived from the incoming cargo that came from different craftsmen all over the world. Craftsmen who rode into my town on ships would help build structures for the town, and watching them work was fascinating because they always did work differently from the Belgian people. Hearing the new craftsmen tell their stories was always fun, but hard because I would have to sneak around the bar to hear them. I would go around back of the bar where the crates always sat, and above these crates sat a window, which the tavern always kept open. I climbed the crates nightly and would sit by the window to listen to these new stories that told tales of far-off places. This all stopped one day when a giant came into town from his castle on top of the ridge, and he wielded an oak club that was big and knotted. I could see him coming into this town square, and he was yelling the whole way about how he ran this town. He called for the townspeople to gather because he claimed he had new rules for everyone to follow. I gathered in the square with my fellow townspeople, and when everyone was settled, the giant spoke. "I am Antigonus. Now listen here and obey me." The giant called out to us, "No ship shall pass without my permission, and every captain must pay a toll." I could hear a slight gasp from the people around me. "Whoever does not obey me will have their hands cut off, and they will be placed in one of my dark dungeons for a month," Antigonus roared. "Whoever helps a boat pass, whether it be night or day, will have the same consequences," the giant said as he smashed a nearby cart full of goods. After this show of strength, the giant turned around and went to his castle. At first, ships still came in, stopping at Antigonus's castle to pay his toll, but the tolls were so great that not everyone could pay them. I saw what happened when a captain refused to pay the toll. Antigonus made the sailor kneel down in front of him and place his hands one on top of another on a block. Then he cut them off in one drop of an axe, throwing the sailor's hands into the river while he was escorted away to the giant's dungeon. Another story is when a man hesitated paying the toll because he didn't have the money. The giant took the man and threw him into his dungeon, and the man had to stay there until his friends and family paid a ransom. As you can imagine, my city gathered a bad reputation from this, so people barely came into trade. I heard about the people who tried to help ships sneak in at night. But you can guess what happened. The giant saw them and cut their hands off, and the people who tried to help got their thumbs cut off and thrown in a dungeon. A bunch of good a thumbless hand can do for you. I tell you now, nobody came to town anymore because nobody was brave enough. The town was starving because the prosperity was destroyed. The Germans even named my town Handwerpen, which meant hand throwing. Nobody wants to go to a town called Handwerpen. We Dutchmen called our town Antwerp, which meant the same thing because that's what we were already known as. We couldn't confuse people now. This one fellow in town, the Duke of Brabant, had enough of Antigonus, so he went to the castle and threatened to attack him. This guy even shook his fist under the giant's nose. Can you believe that? I heard the giant only laughed at him. However, I saw the giant making his castle stronger at night. I studied the castle after this and saw a way to get into the giant's castle by his bedroom window. I went to the Duke and told him if he went to the castle and stormed the gates, that would defeat the giant because I know he's just a bully. To my surprise, the Duke agreed and told me he would gather his best men and that we would go tonight. Now this is the good part of my story. It was pitch black when 1,000 of the Duke's men stormed the gates at the given signal, and the men busted the iron gate, they took over the garrison, and then they set free the prisoners who were in the dungeon. And I could hear shouting of joy. I did not get to watch this though because I was busy climbing the side of the castle to the giant's chambers. I slipped through the window wielding my sword, and as soon as I got inside, I dodged the oncoming club of the giant. The club smashed through the wooden floor from the force. When I looked up, the giant was staring me down with his vicious eyes, and I could hear the coarse, foul breath. The giant lunged for me, and in one swoop I took the giant's head off. Just to prove my point, I tossed the nasty head out the window for everyone to see. And then I cut his hands off and placed them one on the top of each other for good measure. The town decided to place those hands on the tallest building so I could throw them off, one by one, into the river. I got a celebration for my valor, a bronze statue, and I was handsomely rewarded. Enough about that though, because this is the story of my town. We decided to keep the name Antwerp, and as time went by we prospered. We even had a coin proverb, all the world is a ring and Antwerp is a pearl set in it. Life has been good since then.